Hello, I am so excited to talk to you about aligning your values with parenthood. Because let's face it, parenting is not easy. Just think about all the decisions we make in a day. Ugh. Talk about decision fatigue. Well, this will help you make parenting decisions with confidence and clarity, and I would add a little bit more ease. Because when you're clear on your values, everything feels more intentional and less like guesswork. I remember when I found my core values, life seemed a little bit more straightforward. I could take the guesswork out of it and I knew how to make my decisions. I had a guidepost, I had a reason to get back to why I'm making the decisions I'm making. This is my cute family. I have three boys, ages 6, 4, and 2, and a baby girl on the way. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe it. Drop in the chat how many kids you have. I want to know. Okay, 1, 4, 6. Ooh, bless you. None yet. Great. Okay, we've got a wide range there. Well, let's talk about where we're going. We're going to talk about the why, the what, and the how of parenting with core values. First of all, the why. Why does this even matter? Why add seemingly more to our plate when we're already struggling? We're already doing all of these things for our kids. We're already trying to fit in self-care and extracurricular activities. Why add one more thing like core values? It may seem like we're adding to our plate, but really we are lightening our load when we add core values and we consider the reasons why we're making decisions or how we're parenting, or really just reflecting on our day-to-day what matters most to us. Maybe you've heard of core values, maybe you know your core values, or maybe this is all new to you. I want you to drop a 1, 2, or 3 in the chat. 1, if you know your core values, you could name them and you're just ready to go. You know your core values. 2 is you're somewhere in the middle. Maybe you've heard of them, maybe you've thought about it, but you couldn't explicitly say what they are. And then 3, this is all brand new to you. You can't name them. You have no idea, and you're just ready to learn. Okay, again, a range there. Some people know, some people are working on it. Great, thanks for that. I love hearing your responses in the chat. When you're clear on your values, you make decisions with confidence. And core values are something that is applicable in any aspect of your life, but today we're looking at it through the lens of parenting. But stepping back a little bit, core values are deeply held beliefs that guide our decisions and actions. They shape how we parent, and here's the tricky part, whether we realize it or not. So these can be subconscious, they can be conscious, of course. We can be able to attribute where they're coming from. Other times we don't know where we assimilated some of these beliefs. And they might change over time, which is totally allowed, or they might stay the same. Okay, put in the chat again, what's one word you'd use to describe your parenting style? It doesn't have to necessarily be a value at this point, but just something that describes how you are as a parent. If you'd rather, you could use an emoji. I see lots of exhausted faces. It is a not for wimps for sure. Yes, lots of overwhelm, but hey, there's some confidence too in there. Yes. Okay, well, on this next slide, I have a list. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. I wanted to mention that I wrote a book. It was published in August. It's called Let Yourself Bloom. And in it, I talk about core values. It's one of the chapters. I reference Brene Brown, who she created a list of 100 core values in her book, Dare to Lead, where you can reference all these core values. And there's tons of other references online for if you want to look up different core values or different words for what might represent you and what you value more. But another one of the quotes from my book is drink as you pour. You are part of the family table and are just as important and deserving of love and care as your children. So be sure to nurture yourself and include you in your family. A lot of times we're self-sacrificing as parents. We do a lot for our children, and that is a good thing. We are meant to help them survive and thrive, but it shouldn't be at the expense of ourselves. So I just wanted to put that plug in there to drink as you pour, as you are considering your values. Okay, now we'll go into the what, where I will show the examples of different core values and what your core values might be. So I want you to look at this table and reflect and think. Maybe you think of some experiences as a child or something that's been happening recently, and just kind of, if you have some paper, jot down what some of your core values might be or what words stick out to you. If you don't have a paper, you could jot them in your phone. And while you're doing that, I will just mention as well that core values are morally neutral. So we think of things like honesty or trust or different moral words. And while they do have a moral definition, when you're thinking of your core values, one is not better than another. It's just how you were raised or how your life has shaped you and the experiences that you've had to bring you to that value. So no judgment here, no shame, just looking with curiosity at what your values might be. Feel free to share some words in the chat of what you feel like your values might be, or just continue to reflect on them. As I mentioned, there's a chapter in my book about core values, and similar to Brene Brown, I made my own list. And so I made a core value deck, as you see on the screen. That is the cover of it. And on each card, there is a different word, and you can sort your core values and kind of rank them because the idea is to narrow your core values down to 3 to 5. That way, it's easy to recall. You can easily share them with others and easily reflect and make parenting decisions in the moment. My core values, there are 4 of them, are connection, contribution, reliability, and refinement. We'll talk more about my core value deck in a little bit, but hopefully you've picked out some words that stick out to you. I wrote other because obviously I would have a hard time believing that there would be a comprehensive list out there. There are so many words, and sometimes one word may stick out to you more than another. For example, maybe you like the word integrity instead of honesty, or with my example, I liked the word contribution more than, what was the word? Ah, now I'm gonna forget it. Oh, more than service. I liked contribution more because I felt like I was giving to a greater whole rather than just giving me my all for some cause. I did want to share a story. It was the day after Halloween a couple years ago, and it happened to be a rainy day. I had a baby at the time, so he was crying. It was about dinner time. And my other son asked for a piece of Halloween candy, and he had had way too much candy already, so I said no, so he started crying. And then the third son asked if he could go ride his bike. Well, of course it's raining, so I had to say no, and then he was crying. All 3 of them were crying, and in that moment, I kept a level head. I pulled out my phone. I recorded it, so I have this recording of them crying, and I was able to just maintain perspective. I I am not always like that. It doesn't always work out to stay neutral like that. But it was one of those times where I prioritized my perspective and my connection over any frustration or anything else that was going on in that moment. So just kind of one of those times where my values really did resonate in my head of what I could choose to show up as instead of react to. Okay, so I have a few common parenting dilemmas that we'll go through, and I want you to think of your values, the ones that you've started to pick out and choose, or someone else's value that may apply here. And we'll just look at these different scenarios and see how core values could help in this situation. So, number one is your child insists on dressing themselves. And maybe they're wearing some sort of spunky mismatched outfit. So, are you going to value self-expression or control and order and pragmatism? So, that's the first one. Number two, your son is a picky eater and refuses to eat what you prepared. What values are on the table here? Maybe you're trying to teach a lesson and you want him to not be entitled and you want to have him just eat what you made. Or maybe you see that he really just is having a problem texturally and so you make him a whole different dinner. Maybe you just don't have the time and bandwidth for that, so you give him a bowl of cereal. What values are at play here? And through all this, feel free to put it in the chat, answer there, talk all the things with if you're with someone. Okay, your daughter asks if she can stay up past her bedtime. Maybe you value adventure or you are going to stick to order and routines. And who knows, maybe it's case by case. Maybe sometimes one value will win out and another time another will. Just getting your mind thinking. Okay, your child has homework they need to finish. Are you going to try to help them be independent and figure it out on their own? Are you going to step in and help? Do you always help them? Do you sometimes help them? Does it depend on what their assignment is? Okay, and the last one, your children ask if they can go for a spontaneous outing. It's interesting in parenting too, because you have these tiny humans that have their own personality, their own core values, and they're not always what you value at the moment. Different agendas. Okay, and lastly, we have the how, because values only matter if you apply them. That goes for a lot of things in life, but let's talk about the application. One of my favorite quotes by Viktor Frankl is, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." And then just going back to your values, when you're clear on your values, you create a family culture that reflects what matters to you. So with this stimulus and response, we know a lot can happen within there as to what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what our child's feeling, what is going on if it's a different scenario. But the question to ask is, what value do I want to model right now? Sometimes my oldest has a hard time getting to school in the morning. If something sets him off, then he is obstinate about getting his boots on and getting his coat and backpack. And a lot of the time, I'm frustrated and I say, we gotta get going. You're gonna be late. Remember, one of my core values is reliability. And so oftentimes I let that supersede my other values, even though connection really is my highest priority. Things go a lot smoother when I stop, I think. Who do I want to show up as? What do I want to model right now? And there are times when I am able to stay level-headed and I prioritize connection over control and turn it into a playful moment, or I let him talk about it, or I say, I know this is hard right now. I validate him, but we do have to go to school. And those times end up a lot better than when I'm trying to force him out the door. Okay, just a few more to reframe. Instead of, I want to do everything right, which is perfectionism, maybe we can say instead, connection matters more than perfection, or control, or reliability, or whatever it is that's coming up for you. And like I said before, core values are morally neutral, so it's not fair to judge someone else based on their values, especially our kids. So just think about what you want to reflect and model and appear as and really embody that. Instead of my child is being difficult, frustration, we've all been there. My child is having a hard time not giving me a hard time, which is more empathetic. Instead of saying no will only make things worse, people pleasing, trying to make everyone happy. Saying no to one thing means saying yes to what matters most. Intention, perspective, that higher brain thinking of the future and what we really want our legacy to be, who we want to show up as. So I want you to think about some of your values and see if there's ways that you can reframe some of the thoughts that you've been having. If you've been having negative thoughts or thoughts that don't serve you, think about how you can reframe them in the context of your values. Okay, so if you're ready to get clarity and confidence in your parenting and you want this core value deck that I talked about, you are able to download it for free on my website. You'll go to www.letyourselfbloom.com/values and it'll be there for you to opt in. And not only the value deck, but it will include a values in action guide to really walk you through how to apply these values to your parenting. Because again, we're making so many decisions in a day, and if we can reflect and stop that stimulus and response process, make it a little bit slower, we will be able to show up as the people that we want to show up as. I want you to reflect and think for a moment and drop it in the chat for sure. Who do you want your children to see you as in 25 years? Mm, yes, I love seeing these come in. So powerful what you can really be in their eyes. And we have a lot of influence about how our children turn out and show up in the world. Of course, we don't have perfect control over that, but the more we parent with our values, the more we will instill in them what is important in life. Again, what we value, we can teach them to figure out what they value and live in that way. Good, good stuff. Okay, this doesn't have to be the end of the conversation. Let's connect for sure. On Instagram, I'm at letyourselfbloom_ with Jen Banks. Check out my book. I'll go back for a minute. It's on Amazon and Barnes& and Noble and a lot of different indie stores if you're local to the Salt Lake City area. If you're not, again, it's online, or you can reach out to me on my website and I can get you a copy. Mother's Day is coming up, and so it is a perfect gift for any mom. This is the QR code to my website. Again, it's Let Yourself Bloom. And to download that QR code, I misspoke, sorry. To download that core value deck, it's right there, www.letyourselfbloom.com/values. So put in the chat, put the word values if you're going to go download it. If you're going to use that resource and be more empowered in your parenting decisions. Raising kids is not easy, like I said at the beginning, but let's raise kids who know what they stand for, starting with us. We are the examples, we're the mentors, and parenting with values just elevates everything and it helps really lighten the load, lighten your plate, because you can filter all your decisions through the lens of your core values. Thank you. Bye-bye.